ahead, clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you can hear me. It still works. It still works. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for showing up on this happy Thursday. We have an incredible meeting. This is probably, I would say, one of the more nutrient-dense meetings we've had all year, but it's something that we can all benefit from and share with our clients. So before we get into that, let's do the upcoming events. So December 18th, 6 to 8, everybody is welcome. Santa will be here. There will be food. It's catered by Randy Peters. There will be music. Great time. Kids are welcome as well. 6 to 8 here in this building. If you were here last year, you know it's fun. Barry might break out the moonshine again. We don't know, but
firm sources say.
Yeah. And then after that,
just so you know, we just got confirmation a rep with Car is going to be doing an update, so we will have another meeting next week, same time here.
Okay, yeah.
He just confirmed today, so the rep with Car.
Rep with CAR will be presenting.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a presentation on the legislative update for 2020.
Will you be bringing gifts?
No, I could be the same.
No, but you
can break away from Christmas because they work that out.
We're expecting. So yeah. So in the morning we'll have that, and then in the afternoon we'll get transformed into a winter wonderland for the Christmas party. And Brent might show up, just so we know, for prep for the early morning meeting. He said he was gonna try and make it, so he might be there as well as with the CAR gentleman. And then no realtor huddle on the 25th or the 1st. We're getting a couple weeks off. And then after that, that's a beautiful slide, by the way. January 8th, we're going to continue to pick up with Alex Dyer, Bold Trails Training. So he is not here, but we'll pick that up next year. And then this is going to be a good one as well. So January 22nd, home staging with Heather Burns. She was recommended to us by Cindy Silva, because she can finance the staging costs. I don't know if it's through escrow or or it's a payment plan. I don't know how it's financed, but she can finance it. I think she's one of, if not the only ladies that's doing this right now. So you're tired of paying for staging or having a hard time getting your sellers to pay for staging, Heather may be your solution. I tried getting her in before the end of the year, but she's already booked up. So January 22nd, that will be happening. And then January 29th, we are doing our headshot session with, what's her name? With Jenny. With Jenny. Scan the QR code, space is limited. So if you do not RSVP for your free complimentary headshot session with Jenny, we won't be able to squeeze you in because space is very, very limited. And then after that,
hold on.
Oh, you got slow on the draw.
Tom's
already signed up. Back.
Oh, back another one?
Okay.
Wait, the headshot?
That's
Yeah.
a headshot.
Thank you.
Come on, let's keep it.
It's just on vacation for like 6 months or
I
something.
guess.
No, I'm trying to look at that.
Good. You get it, Rich?
Got it. Cool.
Did you reach?
And then I don't know if this is happening tomorrow. Is this happening tomorrow? I don't see Alex here.
It's happening, but
Okay, so Jose said it's happening. Friday tomorrow, clock 10 a.m. Bold Trail. He's teaching us how to get more business out of our database using the tools that we have provided for free through EXP. And then we're up to our lender minute with JJ Mack. JJ, tell us something good. What happened yesterday?
That was all right, let's do it.
We're flying, man.
We're not doing the what's good or
You can do it. You can tell me something good. I just know Christina has so much info. I was trying to get
okay, well I'll let it be. Yeah, did everybody hear what happened yesterday?
Yeah.
Dissension in the ranks.
yeah. There's some things that are happening that are going well there in the Fed, and what they're saying, well, they obviously cut rates by 0.25%, so we're happy about that. It was weird, got all these calls, realtors, clients, rates were cut 0.25%. I needed 0.25% in order to refinance my house. Well, the rates didn't really change yesterday. It got a little bit better, but it's not like the rates improved by 0.25%. It's just the fact that they cut the short-term rates by that amount of money, or by that amount of rate. So that means your credit card rates, your auto loan rates, all the like a home equity line of credit, if your clients are looking for home equity lines, those went down by 1/4%, but not necessarily the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. But there were some things that happened yesterday that were very surprising to me. And I was watching Jerome Powell speak, and I took some notes on it. But he's usually this hawkish guy that's always talking about how bad the market is and how we're not going to see improvement, how we're not going to cut rates, inflation sucks, blah, blah, blah. Well, yesterday he changed his tune. And what he was saying is that he believes, he doesn't think, well, first of all, he said he doesn't think there's much more room for cuts. When you look at the dot chart plot that the Fed members use, on average, they're only thinking there's about one rate cut next year. That could easily change. That goes all over the place, right? So let's see what actually happens to the numbers. I think we'll have more. But right now they're saying there's only going to be one rate cut. But it didn't really affect the market because here's the thing. He finally admitted the first time that jobs suck in America. And so finally we're hearing him talk and give us things that are absolutely true. And he's saying that there's now I've been talking about this last several months. There's like 20,000 job cuts in the market. There's 40,000 job gains and 60,000 job cuts in the market right now. So that means 20,000 deficit every single month. That's bad for America. And it's probably overstated there. And he thinks that inflation is going to peak in January because of the tariffs that have been happening. So if that does peak, we're going to see things then come down after that. He also says that the biggest thing, and I think that the biggest thing from yesterday is that the Fed is now going to start buying bonds. And that's huge for interest rates. They're going to start buying $40 billion a month in treasury bills. That was a big surprise, and that is what's going to move the market. You're going to see the Fed step back in and start buying those bonds. That will bring interest rates down in the new year. So next week is a big week. We're going to watch out for the inflation news and the jobs report. Those are both coming out next week. So big weeks that could potentially bring interest rates down even more if I see what I think we're going to see. I do feel very strongly now after yesterday, if Jerome Powell keeps his tune, and remember, he's not in for much longer. Next year, he's supposedly going to be removed after his term. So right now, interest rates right around that 6%, 6.1% mark for conventional, 5.7, 5.8% for FHA government products with decent credit scores and whatnot. So hopefully we see these rates coming back down into the 5s for conventional. Can really help a lot of people. So some stats I want to give you really quick. If we compare our mortgage application for home purchases the last year, home purchase applications are up 20%. That's pretty good, right?
Like that.
Yeah. Almost 20%, I think it's 19%. Refinance applications for last year are up almost 90%.
Wow.
Oh. Interest rates have gone down since last year, so it makes sense, right? But the cool thing is here, home equity lines of credit, 1 out of 4 loans right now, not talking about just refinances, 1 out of 4 loans total are home equity loan. That means that your clients need help. They need money so they can help pay for their bills. They need money so they can help pay for the things that they're doing. It is a tough time right now. Inflation is still, things are still rather expensive. So they're looking for money that they can get out of their homes. But as you can see here, buyers and homeowners, they are engaging in the market. They're probably picky, as you've seen. Your buyers are picky right now, but they are engaging. They're not just sitting still. So get out there and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. But I just thought that was a good reminder for all of us that there is activity. We just need to be getting in front of it. And just reminder, work with a lender that knows how to follow up and not just take your leads, call them once and say, I didn't get a hold of them. That's what's important right now. They might be picky. They might not want to buy today, but as long as we're following up, as long as you and your lender are working together in synchrony to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do, you will have some success there. One more thing before I sit down. Going into the new year, I wanted to offer you all a business plan We have a one-page simple business plan that I can send to each of you if you'd like. Just text the number on the board. Some quick stats. Only 3% of adults have written goals. That same 3% consistently outperform the other 97%. It's important to have goals in life. Have an accountability partner increases your chance of achieving a goal by up to 95%. Got to have somebody that you can feed off of. So important to have somebody you can help hold you accountable. And then people who review their goals weekly are 2 to 3 times more likely to hit them compared to people who just set their goals and forget about them. That means that having a goal is important, but actually looking at it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis is even more important. So 80% of New Year goals, you guys probably know this, they fail by February because there's no plan and no accountability structure behind it. So if you're looking for that one quick, simple business plan, I'm happy to send it to you. Just text the number on the board, ask for the business plan. I can send it to you. I've learned that over the years, you know, when I first got in the business, I just like, oh yeah, I want to close $50 million. Well, how are you going to do it? This actually shows you what do you want to do, and then it reverse engineers those numbers so you can actually figure out what your pillars of success might look like for that year and get you to that number. Or whatever it might be. You want to recruit a certain amount of agents, you want to, you know, create a certain lifestyle that you want to live, whatever it is, so important to start today so that you know January 1st where you're going. Hopefully this helps. Is there anything else that you guys have heard? Any other Fed stuff or mortgage rate stuff or loan stuff you have questions on?
Sit down, like, for deferral.
So definitely you should be talking to your clients now. If you have a client that is looking for the Dream for All program, it is coming back January 1st, opening back up. They have some money that's left in the tank there. We can get them qualified for that today.
Let's build one up.
Good. Yeah, let's get them in there because there's not as much left over, right? There's some leftover money there, but it's not nearly as much as it was. And they didn't tell us exactly what the dollar amount was, but there's not going to be nearly as much. So it might go faster. So if you have somebody, make sure they know the first week of January is going to be pivotal in that particular program.
Well, can you remind us of that program real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, Lindsay, if you want to, you probably know more about it than I do.
Yeah, it's a 20% down payment, first time home buyer, couple extra stipulations on it. It'd be also a first generation home buyer. So a regular down payment assistance is going to require that you haven't owned a home as your primary residence in the last 3 years. This will require 7 years, and that at least one parent of whoever's on the loan also does not currently own a home. So kind of that multi-layer there. And then it's 20%. It's a shared appreciation loan. So say they buy the house at 400,000 using 20% down. In 5 years, they sell it, it's worth 500,000. They have to share 20% of whatever their appreciated value is from the time they bought to the time they sold. In addition to paying back that 20% that they borrowed initially. So it's that plus some, but they get to keep that extra 80% of appreciated value. And for most people, it opens up, you don't have mortgage insurance, it's conventional, and 20% down opens up their price point a lot. And I will also say, I was just talking to Johnny about this. The last time the vouchers were given out was May of 24. People are still on the wait list and getting those funds. Johnny has an offer on a property right now that has it from May of 24. And we just had one that closed a couple months ago. She was waitlisted for over a year and then got moved up and got the funds. So it's definitely worth at least putting your buyers into it because you never know. And then we usually will qualify for that program as well as a regular standard assistance program in case they find something in the meantime where they don't get that voucher. It's also on a lottery system. So,
But the buyer, what's the 20% down?
no,
This-
that's what comes from the
That's what I
program.
thought, okay.
Yep. But it is a lottery system. So you have to put them in and then they pull a certain kind of amount per county is what it seems like they've done the last couple of years. And, but we had a decent amount of people. I would say probably 15 or 20% of our applicants that we put in got vouchers. So it's pretty high. High rates.
I had 4 people fill out the application last year and 1 got it.
Yeah.
Is a voucher a guarantee that you're, or is it just a ticket in line?
No, once you have, then that money is secured for you. You do have, I believe it's 60 days to get a
You said
house.
voucher for giving, that mean the money?
That's the 20, yes.
So
So if you get a voucher, you have that 20%. Yep, it's golden ticket. And you have 60 days to get your house find a house and get into escrow, but you are also allowed to submit for multiple extensions. So.
But one of the qualifications is that neither you nor your parents own a home in the last 3 years?
Yeah, you can't currently own a home and can't have owned in the last 7 years.
Or your parents?
And so say there's a married couple, the wife's parents own a house, but the husband's parents do not, that qualifies. So if it's a single person and their parents own a home, unfortunately that disqualifies them.
What if
They
they
want
have,
that
what if their
multi-generational.
parents are separate?
The parents are separate and one parent doesn't own, but the other one does, that can be allowed.
Okay.
So just that multi-generational,
Like,
Um,
what if they're married and only one of the parents owns,
what do you mean?
meaning that only.
Only one's on title?
Only one's on title.
Might start getting into a little gray. I was asking,
Just saying.
Exception does.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. I don't know what the parents have to do with it. That's really.
There are income limits per
Generational.
county based on, it's the same income limits, as the regular programs. So it's high though. It's like it's like $226,000. It's a lot.
She does look out, so yeah, give Lindsay a round.
Go slide back up there, Jose. If you guys want to connect with Lindsay, you guys can always, or JJ.
Obviously, yeah.
He's just
She's
the one to
go
go.
to.
Lindsay does all.
Exactly.
All right, but yeah, that phone number will get you connected to Lindsay.
Thank you, guys.
Speaking of Lindsay, I wanted to give her a quick shout out. I had a question last night, and so I shot her a text at like 6 or like 6:15 this morning. Lindsay's responding back, so
I got a text reply to you, but it was like almost 11 o'clock, and I was like, I'm gonna stick this.
no, you could have. I'm not sleeping much these days, Lindsay. I got 2 little boys that are refusing to sleep. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
But anyways, Lindsay's phenomenal. So reach her at that phone number. Okay?
Johnny's texting at 3 a.m.
Oh, you should see when the text's going out. Yeah, I am not sending later intentionally. These are real texts going out at weird hours. All right. So our keynote speaker, the main speaker for today, she's actually assessor royalty. She was the assessor president for the entire state of California. Turns out there's 58 counties. And out of all those 58 counties in California, today's speaker was president last year of all those assessors. Okay, quick question. Who remembers Prop 58? Raise your hand if you remember Prop 58. This is gonna be good. This is why Christine's here. Okay. Prop 19. Who knows about Prop 19? All right, real quick, Barry. We're not gonna steal her thunder, but what's Prop 19?
Allowed people to transfer their bases.
How old are you, Barry?
Huh?
How old are you?
I'm not that old.
Are you 55?
Damn, I might be.
But then you can transfer your bases. So I'll let Christine do all the explaining. She's the pro. But Prop 19 allows a certain age bracket. There's some other things as well to transfer the property tax base, as well as there's an interesting inheritance piece to this as well. So everybody, please put your hands together and welcome Christine Wynn.
Yeah. This is my clicker. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for Johnny and Jose for setting this up, inviting me to be here today and share some really great information about Prop 19. I promise I'll make it as interesting as I can, because we are talking about property assessment, which isn't always an interesting topic for people. But this information can really be helpful to you and your clients. And we're going to talk about ways that they could save money, but also we might talk about some dilemmas that they might find themselves in now because of Prop 19. Now, Johnny said Prop 58, well, that was the old rule. before Prop 19 was voted in. And so we're going to talk about that just a little bit too. So Johnny kind of primed the pump here about who I am, but assessors are elected. There's 58 counties in California. Each county has an elected assessor. I know your assessor very well, Matt Maynard. He's a great guy. Maybe sometime he and I could get together and come back and talk to you about another topic. But people are wondering, how do I know what I know about this? Well, I started in this business right out of college, dating myself. 1990, that means 35 years I've been in the appraisal and assessment industry. And I didn't spend all my time in government. For a while there, I was really excited about being a commercial appraiser, and I got my license and I went to work for CBRE, and I traveled up and down the state appraising commercial properties. Commercial is my favorite subset of the appraisal world, but the Great Recession happened during that time, and the appraisal industry really has never been the same. And one of my old bosses said, "Hey, can we get you to come back?" And so I went back. So I've worked for both Sacramento and Placer counties. I am the immediate past president of the California Assessors Association, and I'm a local person. I went to UC Davis, and I'm also certified by the State Board of Equalization. All assessors are required to be certified. Okay, so what happens a lot of times is people get confused about what the assessor does. They think I'm a tax collector. I don't issue tax bills. I don't collect money. I don't disperse any funds. But what I am tasked to do is find out what property in my county is assessable. What's the value of the property? Who's the owner? What kind of exemptions could they get? What does the map look like? We draw the parcel maps. And then all that data is published out to various departments and the community. You can see the assessor's parcel viewer has all this information. So why is Prop 19 so important? Well, we have this thing called Prop 13 that's been around a really long time, 47 years. And I don't know if you recognize this gentleman, Howard Jarvis, right? So back in the 70s, 1978 specifically, people were getting taxed out of their homes. Why was that? Because the tax rate was about 2.6%. And every year your properties are reassessed to market value. So people just couldn't afford it. And so there was kind of a revolt. And so Howard Jarvis put together a ballot measure, which was a constitutional amendment. And basically 80% of the voters voted Prop 13 in. And this is really, really unique. There is no other state in the United States that assesses their property like this. And so basically we went from a market value every year assessment to assessing only when property changes ownership or has new construction. So what that means, and the 1% rate, which if you look at your county, there's language here that says you can have voter approved additions to that 1%. So in Sacramento County, the average is 1.2%. I'm not talking about Melrose, just other local taxes. And then the maximum increase of the assessed value per year is 2%, tied to inflation, the California inflation. And so that's going to be issued shortly. I'm expecting it to be 2% again. So you could imagine, now the law said roll all the values back to 1975, and then from there on, we're only going to reassess at change in ownership and new construction. We still have assessments in Sacramento County that have a 1975.
Wow.
So you can imagine since then, with only a 2% annual increase to that assessed value, those assessed values are far below market. Okay, that's the value of Prop 13. Once I'm talking about 19 and taking advantage of those low assessments. So Prop 19, really a kind of a complex ballot measure. And I use this slide deck. It has drops of water on it because honestly, depending on who you are in your situation, you're either crying tears of joy or tears of sadness. Okay, so we'll talk about the tears of joy part first because I always like to be positive. So really, what got everyone's attention here was the opportunity for people to take their current Prop 13 assessed value and transfer it to another property in the state, no matter what county. Because before Prop 19, it was limited. There were only about 9 counties that allowed it. And they were in the more expensive, we call them saltwater county areas. So Prop 19 did away with those limitations. Also, it did away with the cap. So you could trade up if you wanted to. And in Prop 19, if you do that, you just have to pay the difference. So they'll take the assessed value and just add the difference between the two market values of the home you sell and the one you purchase, and you just have to pay whatever that increase is. Now, you have to be 55. You have to be or disabled or a victim of a calamity, a wildfire, something like that. Okay. And you have to do these transactions, either purchasing the replacements, selling the original. You're going to have 2 transactions. They have to be done within 2 years of each other. That's a requirement. There is an inflation adjustment if you sell the original first, and that's to prevent inflation from eating away at your gain. Okay, so 5% in year 1, another 5%, so for a total 10% in year 2, to compare against whatever you're purchasing. We're going to go through an example. Okay, so everyone is wondering, well, how do the clients know? How do the property owners know they can get this benefit? Well, I don't know if you've seen this document before. I'm sure you have. It's called the Preliminary Change of Ownership Report. Every county has one. The State Board of Equalization mandates the format. Each assessor gets their name at the top. Okay, but there's some questions. It's asking them, what are you doing? And it's me. Oh, I'm transferring. I bought a replacement property. I'm 55. So when those boxes are checked and we get it, go, oh wow, let's send them some paperwork so they can file for this benefit. And I will tell you in my business that what you don't pay in taxes, you do pay in paperwork. Okay? It's a different thing. If you're going to get a discount or anything at all, you can expect there's a form associated with that. So these questions are designed to help us understand what's going on with the people who own the property, and also what kind of benefits can they get. And we will mail them the information out. I've been told before, I don't open that mail. I'm like, why would you not do that? They think they're getting spam mail. I can guarantee you, if the county government is sending you something in the mail, you should open it. It's either telling you, hey, you can get a benefit and possibly a discount, or a bill is coming. So don't throw it away. Now, it doesn't mean you can't recover from that later and get the benefit. It just may cost you some money because of your delay. But some things can have a time component where you have to file by a deadline.
So just to be clear that I'm understanding you, it's possible that we could have clients that were 55 that moved and don't know about this. It's probably likely.
It's very possible. And if they met all the conditions, they could still get prospective relief. If they didn't file within the first 3 years, they could still get it, but they wouldn't go back to the original dates. Okay. So here's an example. So let's say your client, they sell their home in August for $500,000 and they buy one in September for $700,000. They traded up in this case. The assessed value of that home they sold in August is $250,000. I've had people say, why is it so low? Well, it's back to Prop 13. They've owned it a long time. They bought it probably for much less than $250,000. So how do we know what their benefit's going to be? Well, we take that original assessed value and we add to it the difference between the market values of the two homes. Okay, so in this case, they traded up. So 700,000 is 200,000 more than the 500,000. But because of the order they did the transactions, they get an extra 5% added onto that 500,000 because of the inflation benefit that they get. So that means their new assessed value will only be $425,000. So they got a little bit of a break, $25,000 worth, because of that inflation adjustment. So they're saving $3,300 a year. Okay, and for as long as they own the home. Now, this is a little known secret about Prop 19, and a lot of people are not aware of this. It's called extra treatment. And what we're seeing in Sacramento is people are coming, they're selling their homes in the Bay Area, they're moving to Sacramento. And they have a little wiggle room here because they traded down. So in this particular instance, they bought a home for 1 million and then sold one for 1.5 million. So that's $500,000 of wiggle room they have because they traded down. So they took their $250,000 assessed value, applied and received the benefit, and then they had $500,000 to spend on new construction or updating that home within the same 2-year time frame that's not assessable. It's called extra treatment. So in this case, they built an addition that was 600,000. Well, that was a little more than the 500,000. So all we do is we take the extra 100,000, add it to the 250,000. Okay, so their new assessed value is 350,000. But probably the value of the home, what is that? 1.6 million now.
Yeah.
So they're getting a big break.
Huge.
Okay, so, but the kicker here is you still have to complete the construction within the 2-year time frame. So you really have to be organized to do this. You really got to have your timeline ready, know when you're going to do what and will it be done in that 2 years. But it is possible. The extra treatment does require an additional application. So we know that, that's what's happening with the new.
That's some paperwork, right?
More paperwork, more forms. We're obsessed with forms. Okay, so now we're going to start transitioning into talking about the intergenerational benefits. But what I want to show you here is how people are kind of morphing both the base share value transfer and the intergenerational, and they're kind of getting smart about how to take advantage of this. So in this case, it's a parent and a child, and they're going to acquire a property together. The child sells their home on April 1. The assessed value is 500,000 and the market value of what they sold was 800,000. The parent, who's 55, probably older than 55, they buy a replacement home with the child for 900,000. The parent then sells their original home for 1 million. And they had $150,000 assessed value. Only one person has to qualify to transfer the base. One person in the transaction. The parent applied and qualified to transfer that 150,000 base to that $900,000 home that they bought together. Okay. Now, the only thing about this scenario that people kind of forget about is the order. So when they bought the replacement first, they still have to pay the higher taxes until the original sells for that time frame. Okay, so a higher bill will become due for that time frame because the benefit of Prop 19 doesn't kick in until both transactions are done. All right, we're going to come back to this one later because I have part 2 to this. All right, so let's talk about the sad part where there's tears of sadness because the laws changed a lot when it comes to inheritance. So when Johnny asked, did you know about Prop 58? Well, those were the old rules that were very liberal and generous when it came to inheritance and property. But when Prop 19 passed, there were severe limitations placed on that. And the reason that it was explained to us that that had to take place was so it could pay for the loss of revenue from the base year transfer expansion. So that was the reasoning that we were given. So now, if you inherit a property from a relative, before you could inherit it, you didn't have to live there, you could rent it out, as long as the principal residence had no value limitations. You could also give them other property that was commercial, as long as the assessed value of the other property was less than $1 million. Now, notice what I said, assessed value. Under the new rules, the value limitation is tied to market now. That's a tricky little use of language, but $1 million doesn't go very far anymore. Okay, so, but now if you inherit property, you have to move into that property in 1 year from the time you inherit it. Either it's given to you before someone dies or when they die. And when I say when they die, the date of death is the year when the clock is ticking. Because in California, dead people can't own property. Even if it's in a trust, it doesn't matter. We look through a trust. Law says you have to look through the trust. Who's the beneficial owner? If they pass away, they're no longer the owner, and it goes to the heirs. Okay. So you have 1 year. You have to file a homeowner's exemption now. And even if you move in within 1 year, if you don't file that right away, your benefit doesn't begin until the year you file it. So you could be postponed further. Also, there is the $1 million max on the market value. So the benefit is only up to $1 million. Now, and oh, by the way, that $1 million is tied to an inflation factor. It's gone up to 1.044. You know, since the law was passed, the next it's gonna in 2 years it'll it'll go up again by some small amount.
50 cents.
The thing about this too, that it was really tricky, and I think people didn't understand. If you inherit, you qualify, you get everything that you have to basically live there forever. If anybody moves out, if you move out or rent it out, the benefit's gone, yanked right out from under you. And what we do is at the time of inheritance, we put market value on the property, we store that data in our system. If we have to take it off, we go back, we grab it, we inflate it up to whatever year it is that this happens, and your still is reset from there. The timing of the inheritance transfers, once again, I just really want to reiterate the date of death is the transfer date. Now you can also have a transfer, the parent doesn't die, they just want to give you the property, have a transaction, that's fine. There's a reporting date for that. But let's say somebody died before this law went into effect, February 16th, 2021. Then they can qualify under the old Prop 58 rules, which means much more generous. Don't have to move in, can rent it out. No value limit, okay? So we still get these deaths. People don't know they're supposed to report a death to us. What happens is the deed will record. We'll be like, wait, the names don't match. Our record, something's wrong. Oh, someone died. People are supposed to report to us, but they just don't. They just don't know they're supposed to. So it happens a lot more than you would think. Family farms. How are family farms impacted on this? Well, they weren't supposed to be, but they ended up being included. And so basically the $1 million market value limit is per parcel. Okay, so that helps a little bit. If it's a farm without a home, nobody has to live on it, obviously, and they can still get the benefit. But a lot of big farms are many acres on one giant parcel. So it doesn't help them that much. There's also difficulty in defining what is a family farm. And so those things are popping up now. We're having difficulty. People trying to say they planted a tree, it bears fruit, it's a family farm type of situation. So that's happening now. And how do we know? Once again, they're filling these forms out, they're checking the boxes. This is a transfer between parent children. So that's how we know, and we send out the documents so that they can, and we can share the slide deck with everyone. They can have a copy. It's not very.
That would be great.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's go back to that. Oh no, this is a different one. This is inheritance transfer example 1. So this is where there was an inheritance, and the market value of the property was $750,000. The assessed value is $300,000. Well, we can already see that that's below the $1 million limit. So the heir is going to be able to keep the $300,000, and they're saving $5,400 a year. But remember, they have to maintain this as their primary residence into perpetuity to keep that low tax base. This is example 2. This is where I'm showing you how it's gone over the $1 million, and whatever goes over the $1 million benefit is just added to the assessed value. So in this case, the assessed value is going to be $500,000 instead of $250,000, and they save $12,000. Okay, so but they have to reside in the property, And until, if they don't, then we will have to reassess it at that time. This is an example too, what happens 5 years after the exclusion was granted, they decide to move out of state. We reassess the property back to what the market value was as of the date they inherited it. And that increases their annual tax bill by over $13,000. Also know that if we don't find out timely, we can go back 8 years. If they didn't tell us and we found out the date, we could go back 8. So that would be 8 times 13,000.
Damn.
So it's pretty much a time bomb.
This is just, if you have a second home, vacation home, still parent dies, the
Yeah, you can no longer inherit a vacation home. It has to only be a primary residence now. Under the new rules, only a primary residence.
if the family puts the name of the child on the title with them when they buy the house, the vacation home.
Well, there are ways around it. Yes, there are ways. Yes, there are ways.
Like you could sell it to them for $1. And
You can also just take title. Well, that part won't matter because we're required. to reassess that regarding the-
regardless of purchase price, whenever it sells, you guys have to
Reassess the property.
It would be
Okay, so then-
in an LLC and they're part of the LLC.
It's true, the LLC, but anything that's not a primary cannot receive a benefit under Prop 19. So you have to be more creative. Like, in other words, some people may decide, well, when we buy the home together, the parent only takes a 1% interest and the child is 99%. So when the parent dies, only 1% is reassessed.
So that'd be 51%.
So let's go back to that multi-generational situation that where we talked about the parent and the child bought a home together. Well, the parent passes away and now the child owns 100%. So the assessed value has increased to 175,000 due to inflation, the inflation factor, and market value is now 950,000. Under scenario 1, the child's going to live in the property as their primary. They file their application. They qualify to keep that low tax base. And 1 year later, because now they're 55, they transfer that low tax base to another property. Okay, interesting.
Right to the 55.
so the child has to turn 55.
Yes, yes. In scenario 2, the child moves, they don't want to live there. So they don't qualify and the property is 50% reassessed because the child had 50% ownership when they acquired it. So that portion is not reassessed. Then the other option, the child files a co-tenancy affidavit because they lived there with the parent and they were on title and they were the only two on title. So they qualified to retain the original assessed value. And a co-tenancy does not have $1 million limit. It does not have a residency requirement. Okay. So co-tenancy is becoming a really big deal now in this world. No. What was that?
No limits for the co-tenancy.
Right.
Okay.
So the other thing that's happening now is there is an effort to roll back the inheritance provisions of Prop 19, only that portion. The group is called fixprop19.com. They're gathering, they have the ballot language ready to go. They're gathering signatures right now. So there's a lot of people who have an interest in doing this. They want to take it back to the old rules, the old Prop 58 rules, which are a lot easier to understand and it's easier to administer. People are just not, especially in the expensive counties, the $1 million limit is just really crushing them.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if you ever need to get a hold of me, you can reach me, my work number, my cell phone number, my email address, and of course my team. You know, we're always answering questions about Prop 19. We're happy to help you. And so I can take any questions that you might have. Yeah. Okay.
So for 2% inflation that adds on the regular homes, like. So how is that adjusted like when the market goes down by?
Okay, so if your market, so inflation factor is always applied, whatever the state says, we have to apply it. However, what can happen is the assessed value of a property can be higher than its market value. That does happen. We have downturns and things like that. People overpay. So there's something called Prop 8 where you can apply to have a reduction. It's temporary.
Yeah.
It's temporary because once you have your Prop 13 assessment established, that's permanent until the next change, the next Prop 13 change. But if market has a downturn, you can get temporary relief for those years.
Call the office on the reduction part because my area market is down by 8%
Yes.
compared to last year.
Yeah.
And then what they said is they only take the comps based on the January 1st.
Yes.
to
So
30 days.
it's all tied. So when we look at a Prop 8, what we call a Prop 8 reduction, it's all based on the lien date of any 1 year. So January 1 of 2025 is the lien date for the bill that you're talking about. If you're, and for next year, it's gonna be January 1, 2026.
So
So,
that's the comps they will compare it to.
yes. 3 months before and 3 months after that January date.
Yeah.
Which, Placer County is that,
It's the Westwood.
yeah, so, okay. So in Sacramento County, you can apply to have this review every year if you want. It's free. You just go online and you don't have to give us comps. Because we don't think that people are really good at picking comps. I know some require it, but we find it's not helpful for people. What about older people? What are they gonna do? You know, it's like, just tell us you think it's wrong. We're gonna do a new appraisal and we'll tell you what we think the value is. Now, if you don't agree with that, because sometimes people don't, they can file an appeal, formal appeal. There's a whole process for that. If you don't agree, you can say, fine, I'm gonna go to the clerk of the board and file my appeal and have a hearing.
How expensive is that?
Well, in Sacramento County, it's $30. It's probably similar in Placer. It might be 50, but it's not that bad.
So there is an appeal process if you don't agree. I mean,
If you don't agree with our review, we'll review it for free. But if you don't agree with it, you can go to appeal. We don't have any reason to not adjust it because we're not concerned about revenues. That's not what we do. We're concerned about market value.
someone in your office is, it may not be you guys, but if it's representing the government, they're always concerned about revenue.
This assessor is separately elected person. I don't report to the board of supervisors. I'm a constitutional officer. I'm concerned about the law. I'm concerned about the integrity of the tax roll, because if I'm over assessing, that means that I'm at risk of having to cut the values, and therefore everybody who relies on what they think is accurate revenue is not going to have that benefit. So for us, if someone tells us, hey, this is wrong, we want to fix it, because we have to balance the taxpayer's interest, the district's interest, everyone, and it all comes down to what's market value. We just stick to that one way or the other, either up or down. Now, purchase price does matter in our business because the law says that the purchase price is presumed to be the market unless there's evidence otherwise. So you'll see most assessments, the first year, it's gonna look like the purchase price. You're gonna say, oh yeah, that's what I paid. Most people can agree, yeah, I paid. Sometimes they say, no, I overpaid. It does happen, people do overpay. They get in bidding wars and it's happened. We do have some reductions we have been giving because people who bought in the last few years, it's just escalated up when the market's been a little flat. So it does happen. So these Prop 8s are still out there. And, people can every year, ask for the free review.
Well, it seems critical that people know the rules, because if they violate one of them, simply like if they move, if the child moves, then
Yes.
boom, they've lost that exemption.
Yes.
And those are critical things to know, so that that's a big difference in a tax. Or the one you said 18,000 or 13,000 a year.
It's a valuable benefit in our state when it's really hard to cut your taxes in our state. This is one way to keep them down if you can qualify.
Okay, so let's go back to that whole tenancy 99% versus 1%.
Yeah.
So if I have a client who's, getting along in years and they have children or whatever, would it be in my best interest to, send them your direction or whatever? Is it even possible, I guess is what I'm saying, for somebody to have purchased the property years ago, but then add their child to title.
So
with the
that,
tenancy,
if the child's gonna live there,
like,
because right
like
now, the
right
only
now,
way,
or
right
after
now,
parent dies.
no, right now,
Right
because
now.
the only way you could have a transaction where you're changing. He has 100% beneficial interest right now. He's gonna cut that back by some number. That's the portion of that is accessible. Unless he qualifies for an exclusion like a Prop 19, and the only way would be is if the child moved in.
How would you guys find out that somebody's actually living there or?
That we ask for proof, voter registration, driver's licenses, bills. There's.
So as long as you're getting mail at that residence, then I guess you guys wouldn't find out.
I mean, it's possible that, we might not find out,
Yeah.
but if we do,
Then it goes up to 8 years.
then we could, yeah, because
That could be bad.
yes, we could go back 8 years on it, yeah.
So you're saying if they did move in, let's say they moved in to take care of the parent.
Yeah, that's what.
Right, that'd be a pretty common scenario. Can they then have that tenancy? And be
Yes,
able
they have to be added to title though.
Right.
to-
Oh, they do. So they
Yeah.
can't just move in, they have to
be
be.
move in.
Yes.
Okay, so.
So you can do
Yeah.
your Prop 19, so the Prop 19 can happen at any time, they don't have to die. So if the child's gonna move in, then that's the time to do your Prop 19, and maybe that's the time you make the percent to figure out how to minimize the effect later and not be subject to the living there forever rules and all that. So that's either through co-tenancy or through like a low percent ownership by the parent who's gonna pass in the near, sometime in the future. Now, I just also want to say that a lot of times when people look at this, they have to think of their big picture. What are my concerns about everything else, that my federal income taxes, my estate planning, all of these things, it all kind of comes together. And sometimes people focus on this when really there are other things that,
Bigger.
yeah. So they really need to see a professional. But,
Many people told me that
yeah.
in a state.
I'm sure, but for different reasons.
And, my office, we can't give legal advice to people. And that's one of the reasons, because, we don't know everything, but we can say to them, if they say, well, if I do this, what happens? And then we'll say, this is what happens. Yeah. We can answer those questions, but they want to ask me, what should I do? I can't answer that question.
Christina, for the, you said to memorialize when the Prop 19 kicks in, that's when the child has to be added to title to memorialize that they're actually doing it,
Right.
right?
That's all. Okay. Because remember, if you change ownership at any time, it's reassessable unless you can get an exclusion from that. And the Prop 19 is the exclusion. Right. And so then at that point, when the parent dies, they don't apply for it again. It's over, right? The person died, whatever the result is. Now the co-tenancy, you might apply, you might have to submit something for that, but you wouldn't submit a new Prop 19 application because you've already gone
You
through
already
that
did it
process.
once you were added to title. So
Yeah.
I guess the real key then is when you get added to title, the child needs to designate, okay, I want 99% interest. The parent is only going to have 1% interest to minimize the taxable
Yes.
exposure when the parent
Yes.
passes.
And yeah,
So is it reassessed when the parent passes or when you enact Prop 19
Well,
to get added to title?
Prop 19 excludes it from reassessment, but when the parent passes is when it would happen. So that's why to keep that percent low, you're only impacting the change to the assessment, like 1% gets reassessed, 1% to market.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe I was asleep.
Also, the
I
$1
wasn't
million
aware that we could
limit.
designate it that way. Okay, the parent only has 1% exposure.
Yeah.
I've got 99. So, I mean, that's a great.
Yeah.
I guess I'm.
Very good.
And then you don't continue,
I don't
you
know
don't
how
have
to
to
do that.
continually live there.
You do.
And there's other LLC, so
No.
this was brought up
That's
too
the
about
reason.
potential LLC. The only thing is, it needs to happen like when the property's acquired.
Right.
Otherwise, there's a reassessment that occurs. So
That person have to have.
LLCs do not qualify as for Prop 19 in the sale
But
themselves.
If you did have the LLC on that investment or on that vacation home, would the child need to be 51% owner of the LLC?
Want to keep everyone below, 50% or less. Like no one has the controlling interest because when that person goes on and off, in and out of it, that part's not reassessed. It's whoever has control. So change of control happens if 50% or more changes ownership, basically.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
have to keep it
I see.
below that. So
Okay.
there are ways people are doing that stuff with LLCs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
And then it kind of flows through the generations because only, so much
1%
percent is,
out,
yeah.
Thank
Hey.
you so much. Wasn't this phenomenal?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. People figure out, what you have 5 minutes to answer questions. And we do this.
There you go.
All right, I promise you guys, we have royalty.
How would
Madam
we get the
President.
slide deck?
Huh?
How would we get our
I
slide?
get the slide deck. You just send me $100. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Put your
Reach out
email
to
on
Jose.
here.
Reach out to Jose. Jose will have the slide deck. All right, guys. So the last thing, probably the most important thing of this meeting of the year, guys, warm up your voices. We have a birthday that we need to celebrate. Jesus, yes, Jesus. Pastor, but it's actually this gentleman right here. Mr. Gill, will you please stand up?
Jim, go.
Jim Gill. How old are you? 70?
I'm 1 day past 90.
1 day past. Please, if you're on, come off mute. Everybody, we're gonna sing him happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jim. All right, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, without you, none of us would be here.
Yeah, without you, none of us would be on the show. All right, everybody, have a fantastic Thursday. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thanks, Johnny.